Good morning, Willowbrook. Today's devotion is from Matthew 22, verses 34 through 40. The passage this morning is one that is very familiar to many of us. It's known as the Great Commandment. We know that one of the characteristics of the Pharisees, and also many religious people today, is that they spend a lot of time talking about rules and regulations. They seem mostly concerned with who's in and who's out, who is saved and who is not, who will make it to heaven and who won't. It gets very complicated and sometimes nasty. In this morning's passage, Jesus is surrounded by exactly these same kind of religious arguments. The folks were arguing whether or not they should pay taxes to the government and who would be married to who in the resurrection. Then one of the Pharisees in our passage says he's an expert in the law. And being an expert in the law, he would have certainly known that the Jewish people had a lot of Old Testament laws, and they had counted them all. Scholars say that there were 248 positive laws. Do this and do that. And there were 365 negative laws. Don't do this or don't do that, for a grand total of 613. So the expert asked Jesus what he thought would be the toughest question of all. Maybe he's trying to test him, or maybe he really wanted some clarity. Either way, he asked, "Teacher, what is the most important of all the commandments of our laws?" What a good question for all of us. What is the most important thing for us to do as followers of God? Jesus is probably relieved that someone finally asked him a question with some substance. And he immediately answers, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment." Now, this would be very familiar to all the Jewish people, and they would all surely agree with his answer. This command was given to the people by Moses in Deuteronomy 6, and it's known to the Jews as the Shema. In Hebrew, Shema means to hear or listen. They had heard this. But Jesus doesn't stop there. He gives them more than they asked for. Not only does he give them the most important commandment, but he gives them the second most important as well. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, he must have thought this was of vital importance to add it, even though he wasn't asked. Then he sums it up in verse 40. All the law and all the prophets hang on these two commandments. So, there we have it. It's straight from Jesus. Love God and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. That's always been God's will for us. So what does it mean to love God? And how do we do it? Well, one of the most important things I've learned over the years is that love is not just an emotion. There are strong emotions associated with love. But if love were based on emotions, what would happen when we get angry with the ones we love? Our way of treating them would go up and down like the tide. There would be no dependability in our relationships. How we treat them would depend on our mood at any given moment. So, love is not primarily an emotion. If we pay attention to the words of Jesus, he says, love with all your heart. That's the emotional love. But he also says, love with all your soul, the spiritual love, and all of your mind, the intellectual part. And in Mark's gospel, he adds with all your strength, the physical part. Love is a decision that we make, and we have to remake it every day. To love is to choose to make time for and listen to those that we love, to make what they think and say important to us. It takes effort. I looked up the definition of pure love, and this is what I found. Pure love is unconditional. It's given freely. Love is selfless. It is prioritizing the other person's needs and happiness above our own. It's putting the other person first. Pure love is kindness, empathy, and understanding, being patient and supportive. Pure love is a sense of belonging. It's a feeling of being connected on a profound level. Pure love is a deep and enduring affection that will withstand both challenges and time. Love is a willingness to sacrifice, for the benefit of others. And it brings joy and fulfillment and a sense of purpose to our lives. All these definitions of love align perfectly with the Scripture's definition of love given by the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 13. So what if we apply these definitions of love to guide us in what it means to love God? To give careful attention to what is important to Him and listen to Him. I believe that this is the heart of what God wants. This is why we are here. God wants a world in which all human creation receives and trusts His love. And then we share that love with each other. That's what it means in the Lord's Prayer when He says, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." This is the basic message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's easy, right? Well, maybe not easy, but it's worth it. Have a great day, Willowbrook.